as we move forward to Netanyahu's purge of Hamas, we have to think very carefully about Naftali Bennett's interview on the BBC on Sunday. He was equating Hamas with ISIS, and I'm not quite sure at what point Hamas became ISIS, but clearly he thinks that Hamas and ISIS are interchangeable. So what he's saying is that Israel should now do to ISIS what the US did to ISIS, and I presume watch that organization, like the ISIS as it was attacked by the US, multiply and expand. One of the failures of the BBC interview with Bennett was to ask him, why did the BBC not ask him at what point did Hamas morph into ISIS? Naftali Bennett did not explain, and the BBC interviewer did not ask. It was lame on both sides. It was a series of assumptions. And is that an example of the BBC bias that Naftali Bennett was calling out all the time? Yes, maybe, but Israel is planning to move into Gaza, presumably to take up a larger area of Gaza than it already occupies, confiscate land. Will there be some sort of is there a financial incentive to do that? And what is the value of the annexed land? Will they be annexing land around Gaza as settlers are annexing land around the West Bank? But if you go back to the idea of we must destroy Hamas, I agree. I think Hamas as the terrorist organization must be destroyed. But does that mean eradicating everybody who is currently involved with Hamas? Does that mean eradicating the Hamas government system? What exactly is the end result? And if we look at the way that the West has tried to get rid of terrorism in the past, we have three options. The first is attempted genocide. So far, I don't think Israel is guilty of genocide, but if it's proposing to eradicate Hamas, that might constitute some sort of genocide, getting rid of destroying the country, getting rid of everybody connected to Hamas. And a few of them will escape, and they will become terrorists, and they will hate the Israelis, and they will in turn flare up and rebel, and the cycle will continue. Or do we do half the job? Half the job like the Americans in Iraq, like the Americans or the British in Afghanistan, and then justify justify all that effort by withdrawing and leaving a mess behind? Or is there a possibility that there's a Northern Ireland solution? What's the Northern Ireland solution? Essentially, the Northern Ireland solution, as I can see it, is about redefining the terrorists and, in some ways, giving them the power they wanted, but making them share it. That comes very close, does it not, to the two-state solution? Is that not exactly where we were going before Hamas's invasion of Israel's terrorist attack? So Hamas is divided into two parts. There's Hamas and there's the Qassam brigades. In exactly the same way as the IRA tried to divide itself into two parts between the active terrorist unit and the political unit. It's a fake divide, but it's a divide which maybe somebody who is looking for a peace formula can embrace. Part of this is to call things by their real name. There is no question at all that Hamas has participated in, has created a terrorist event, therefore Hamas is a terrorist organization. But it doesn't mean that Hamas has to remain a terrorist organization. The future of Israel is possibly a future that embraces the Hamas political wing and uses that to forge a peace in Palestine, a peace that is lasting and a peace that is shared. In fact, I think it's probably the only way forward. Trying to suppress a terrorist organization, we have seen the way this works. We have seen the way this plays out. And it doesn't matter what sort of aggressive rhetoric Naftali Bennett produces. It doesn't matter if that rhetoric is echoed by Benjamin Netanyahu. It doesn't matter if Rishi Sunak and Macron and Biden support that rhetoric. It is just words. Words, 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 and the actions are impossible, and we've already seen how this works. It is impossible to eradicate terrorism with a tank. The only way to eradicate terrorism is with an extremely efficient and effective political commitment to peace. We saw that during the Tony Blair government, and we saw that in the efforts of the Tony Blair government with the help of Clinton to build a bridge in Northern Ireland. The Northern Ireland process, the Northern Ireland peace process, should be a blueprint. It's not perfect by any means. If it were perfect, Northern Ireland would be an entirely peaceful country. It's not entirely peaceful. The IRA in some form still lingers on. But it's significantly better, and the people in Northern Ireland have accepted and embraced that peace process, the Good Friday Agreement. The only thing that gets in the way of that is the nonsense of Brexit and the failure of the Conservative government to produce a Brexit that worked and that acknowledged the dependence of the Northern Ireland peace process on the European framework. You know, these things go together.